Today's session is very interesting. It's a new area where many people will not have any contact so far. We are having a different type of work, but clinical trial, health and research studies, and stem cell research, we are all not so familiar. It is a very new subject in our country also. You can see the American history, European history, etc. We can come across some trials, but in India, we are actively conducting clinical trials only for the last 10 or 15 years only. Before that, research were done, but appropriate laws or rules are not framed there. Before going into the subject, if we know the back history of this clinical trial, that will explain itself the importance of studies, especially clinical trials, etc., etc. So, when you are seeing this clinical trial and the research studies, etc., there were many research were conducted in ancient times, but normally there was a Nuremberg trials, which we call, it's a trial, it's a judicial trial actually. It happened in Germany during 1945. After the World War is over, there are two forces, Axis and Allied forces. So Allied forces won the Second World War. So they conducted a trial against many military officers of Nazi, politicians, judges, advocates, and doctors against the cruelty meted out to the prisoners and the hostages when the war was there. So this trial brought into the world what had happened during the clinical trial which conducted by the Nazi doctors and the medical professionals. So in the concentration camp, the doctors from Nazi government, they conducted trials with very crude methodology. For example, without giving any anesthesia or sedation, they will bring maybe 10 or 15 people. One person's one hand will be cut, and another person's both the hands will be cut. Third person, both the hands and one leg will be cut, and fourth person's 2 hands and 2 legs will be cut. To understand what time it takes to cause death to these persons, you can imagine the cruelty. And sometimes they operated bone marrow operation, cutting without giving any anesthesia a part from one person and putting the part to another person. So cruel. These doctors and judges and lawyers, they were prosecuted in the Nuremberg trials in 1945 by the Allied forces, especially where the judges were normally, it's a tribunal constituted by the British. Mostly British judges were there, and American and other people were there. So this Nuremberg trial brought to the light what type of clinical trial they have done in the past, and it is a notorious history. You can get more information if you are going to the Google under Nuremberg trials. It is an untold story which a human being will never dare to do it. This is actually a clinical trial, first initial chapter of clinical trial in this world. The second very notorious one is syphilis research by CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention in America. It's a funded project by the United States of America. It is also a notorious case actually. See, in 1934-35, the CDC funded some money to do research in syphilis. Syphilis is a disease, sexually transmitted disease actually. Mainly it will attack the males, and you see uncontrolled growth will be there in the face, various parts of your body. So in this study, nearly 666 persons were selected who were attacked by syphilis. Normally, these were in the part of south portion of the United States of America, southern part. Texas, where African Americans are living in more number. So especially this was conducted on the black Americans, males. So they have selected a control group of 50 male and 666 persons of people who were affected by syphilis. You will not believe it started. These 660 persons were not informed about the project. They have not given any informed consent. They have not been informed about the project. Nothing was informed. They were told that some bad blood is in their body. Bad blood. So we are purifying the blood because you are having bad blood. That is the information given to the trial subjects. Normally we call trial subjects. That means those people who are participating in the study, whether we agree it or not, that's the meaning, that is the word we are using, trial subjects. In other studies, we are using participants, research participants, that is study participant. Normally in clinical trial, those who are helping us for conducting the trial, we call them as clinical trial. Even though personally I do not understand, we should not call a person as a subject. But usually in all our law book and other books, we use clinical trial subjects. So these males were informed that you are having bad blood, we are going to purify it, and in return they were given food, some expenses, and once in a month they are having insurance cover and funeral expenses cover also. And these black Americans were very happy. Once in a month they will be awaiting for the white people to come and give them food and money, some dollars, and to receive it. The whole month they will spend it, and every month they will undergo some examination, and these doctors will be testing them. The doctors who are examining the clinical trial subjects were told not to give any medicine, not to do any other thing, only examination, and you have to mark the growth of the syphilis disease, how it is enlarging, how it is expanding, how it's affecting every part of the human body. In 1948, it started in 1934. In 1948, dear gentlemen, penicillin was found, and it was tested and found that penicillin is the best medicine for syphilis. But unfortunately, strict order was given not to reveal this to these clinical trial subjects about penicillin. So these participants were kept in the dark, and the project, 50 years project, they funded up to 50 years, and it was about to finish in 1975 onwards. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I would say, the Allied press in America, they found out that even though penicillin was found and it's a curative medicine for this syphilis, it was not revealed to the participants, thereby paving the way for their sufferings. Purposely, it was not given the information. And there was an article published in the Allied press, and the whole America was shaken by knowing about the truth. The truth that even though there is a medicine, it was purposely not given to the patient because of the syphilis research by CDC. CDC is a fund given by the United States of American government. Now hue and cry, immediately press report, questions in the Senate and House of Commons, and it was found at that time many of the males who went this trial died. Only some 16 people were there, and they were the administration immediately appointed a commission. As you know, immediately in a democratic country, we put some commission to study all these things, and truth found. And the government of at that time, Clinton administration was there. Clinton was shocked, and there is a mob uprising to control the mob. Clinton called some 15 people who are affected so much of syphilis. Syphilis means uncontrolled growth in the face, the sides, etc. Wherever there is a body, it will grow like that. So he called all these people for a special dinner, those who were affected. Then funds were given for those who died, their family, wives and children, etc., etc. And more than even all the children were given some money for upkeeping of the family. It was a tragedy in syphilis. Now, why it has happened? Because there was no rules, no laws, no notifications, no controlling authority, no monitoring. The same way, the CDC project were extended to some of the African prisoners who are in the prison, so that they can experiment any type of medicine to the prisoners. Normally, they will not conduct in United States of America. They will go to the Asian countries or African countries or underdeveloped countries, so that people, that means clinical trial subjects, are available in bulk. So, this many in prisoners in South African prisoners were also, and it was also revealed to the press. Then there was a counter productive press release. So this has opened the eye of all the nations to have proper control over the clinical trials. Now, coming back to India, in India, to control the drugs, their manufacture, importing, distribution and selling of drugs came with the law we call Drugs and Cosmetics Act. Next slide. So, Drugs and Cosmetics Act was enacted then 2019, and the rules were also framed 2046, the act, then the rules were framed in 1948. But this act, 1948 rules and 46 act, were very common. It has not touched the import of the medicines. So drugs were flown into India by so many countries. There's no regulation, etc., no monitoring, and people suffered. Slowly it was developed in 2013. A drastic change was given in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act by framing Y schedule. Y schedule is a schedule which is attached with the drugs and cosmetics rules. The Y schedule is exclusively for conducting clinical trial in India. In 2013 Y schedule, it gave all the details, but however monitoring was not so strict at that time. So many of the European and American drugs were distributed freely in India, because we have not developed pharmacology and pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics were not studied in India. So these were studied in US and European countries. So we freely allowed all the drugs, because once FDA has approved a drug, automatically there's no bar in India, it can be sold in India. Even so, there are a few drugs which were prohibited in the United States of America, can be sold and distributed and consumed by the Indian market. So, even though this Y schedule framed some rules and regulations for clinical trial studies, etc., it was not classified properly. The research were not classified. For example, studies were exclusively for interventional drugs as well as studies relating to health and medical sciences. It was not divided into two. Only it covers all. Only one ethics committee, one research committee. So it was not fine-tuned to the need of Indian researchers. That's why in 2019 and 2020 we saw a drastic change in clinical trials. That's why I chose this topic for the benefit of the participants, because there is a drastic change now. Gentlemen, now the research studies were divided into three areas, and three different authorities were prescribed in government side. In the Y schedule, only one authority, for all the researches. Now it has been specialized into 3 areas. Number 1, the drugs, new drugs, the name itself, you can see new drugs and clinical trial rules 2019. It is a rule framed under Drugs and Cosmetics Act, but the rules are nicknamed as new drugs and clinical trial rules 2019. These rules we call rules because I want to explain about what's the difference between rules, notification and guidelines. Rules means framed under the act. If there is no act, there will not be any rules. Rules are framed to enforce the provisions of an act. Act is enacted by the parliament or legislature, but it cannot be implemented as such unless the cabinet, with the help of the bureaucratic setup, they frame rules, act or enacted by the parliament and legislature, which cannot be implemented by the cabinet unless until all the acts enacted by the parliament or legislature is notified by framing rules and regulations to enforce. To enforce an act, the cabinet frames rules. In other words, parliament, legislature enact law, executive, in other words, cabinet frames rules and regulations to enact the act. In Indian democracy, gentlemen, unless the cabinet approves a bill, I repeat, in Indian democracy, unless the cabinet approves the bill and introduced in the Lok Sabha or the legislature, it cannot be passed. In other words, even I am an individual MP, I am having majority of MPs, my thought is a noble thought, I bring a law which is very, very useful to the country, and all the members are supporting in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, it cannot be passed unless until cabinet introduce the bill. Why? Cabinet enjoys the majority and the government is functioning under the cabinet. So those bills or those laws which the cabinet decides can be introduced in the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha or in the legislature. So there were many private bills introduced by the MPs in the Lok Sabha which got very good majority, but it cannot be passed as a law because who will implement? Only cabinet has to implement. That's why cabinet approves the bill and it introduced it to the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha where they are having majority. So now rules were framed in pursuance of an act. So rules are very, very important. It can be implemented and all the conditions are mandated. It is mandatory. We use the word mandatory. If the rules are framed under their law and if they are implemented, we call it mandatory to follow that. Now, health research, ICMR guidelines, stem cell research guidelines, these are the guidelines which gives a guiding factor for the people to follow. And if you are not following, there is no heavy penalty for that. But rules, if you are not following, there is always a penalty. There is a difference between mandatory and non-mandatory or guidelines we call. Now, among all the research instructions, new drugs and clinical trial rules is a rules framed under the New Drugs and Cosmetics Act. So, this has been separated from other researches. Now, these rules are very, very specific now. And these rules are very useful to 2019, and I am going to talk about what are the very, very important thing in the clinical trial rules in 2019. Just as a bird's eye view. Now, clinical trial applications. So far, applications from international body and application from Indian clinical trial proposals or the investigators are sponsored, it will take more days. Now it is international applicants 90 days. Within 90 days, it will be approved if it is applied from the international body. CT application from Indian researchers team is 30 days only. If you are interested to apply for a study about clinical trial, new drugs or any interventional drugs, we call interventional drugs which will be taken inside the body, we call interventional drugs. It's only 30 days. If you apply, automatically it will be sanctioned. Now, third condition is very, very interesting. It's relaxed like anything. Sir, if you are a sponsor to have a clinical trial about one drug and you apply, within 30 days you don't receive any reply, it is automatic approval. Automatic approval, you can proceed further. Just you have to fill up a form, sending the form, stating that I am having automatic approval as per this. Because after the expiry of 30 days, automatic approval is given for those who are interested to do clinical trial in India. Now, validity of the approval. How long it is valid? It is 1 year now. And it can be extended for another 1 year also. First instance, it is valid for 2 years. It can be extended for another year. So, you have been given your rights and liberty to have clinical trial. It encourages the scientists and the medical fraternity to do more clinical trials, and it enables the Indian Pharmacology Company also to do clinical trials on Indian population. It is a very good encouragement now. So far, it was not showing breadth. Exclusive and separate ethics committee. Now, for clinical trial, my dear gentlemen, we are having an ethics committee. Before, it is a common ethics committee for clinical trial, medical research, health research, stem cell research, all. But now in the clinical trial rules, it's a separate ethics committee, and in the ethics committee, there must be a minimum 7 persons. And there is a requirement that majority of the members should not belong to that institution in which the ethics committee is linked. Suppose Christian Medical College, Vellore is having an ethics committee, not more than 50% should not be from their staff. In other words, majority of the members of the ethics committee must be from outsiders. And in the ethics committee, there must be a social worker, independent NGO, a woman, and there must be a legal person, lawyer, and there must be a clinician researcher. So, these are all the norms given in the ethics committee, and it should be independent. There is a job description for the ethics committee to function. They are independent. They are not belonging to the institution where the ethics committee is attached. Now, there is an appeal provision. I am applying for a trial and I was not given. I can file an appeal before the authority. If I am not able to conduct that, I can also terminate the approval given by them. At the same time, there are certain things we can waive the rules, waive the consent also. For example, every ethics committee must have an informed consent. You must have an informed consent and information sheet. That information sheet is given to the participant who is participating in the trial, and the consent is obtained by you. There are so many conditions for that. It's called informed consent. We are having certain points to be, for example, you have to give full details about the study. You have to give full details about what you are going to the participant or clinical trial subject. What are the things they are expected to do? What type of medicine you are giving? What is the risk factors? What is the benefits? What is the expense? And if there is a risk, what you are going to do? All sort of things are found in the rules. And there is SCA, we done SCA E. That means if there is any report of adverse events, if some drugs is taken, immediately all the treatment should be free, plus there is a compensation committee who will decide about the quantum of compensation to be given to a clinical trial subject who is affected by the trial drug. So, post the very important new aspect in the rules is, so far, if it is 2 years period of clinical trial, I am a TB patient, I have taken so much medicine, but no relief. Some doctor who is the investigator, who is the sponsor, who gives me a clinical trial drug, and after taking that drug, I am fully satisfied. I am having a very good relief. So now, as a clinical trial subject, I have the right to procure that medicine till I require. That permission is given in the new rules. Even though clinical trial period is over, clinical drugs can be given to the participant who enjoyed that there is a possibility of curing this disease free of cost. Now, free medical care, if there is any adverse reaction, the investigators, we call principal investigator and the sponsor, immediately, without waiting for any time, they have to start their monetary help and medical care to the subject. Same way, ethics committee will be revised very, very frequently, so that there must be a workshop, seminar for the ethics committee members. So many rules were framed for them, so many conditions are to be complied. The moment ethics committee is not functioning properly, it can be abandoned, it can be cancelled. The new, very important factor I want to tell gentlemen, so far, there is a minimum bed strength for a hospital to apply for clinical trial projects. Suppose I am having a hospital, special in some specialty, maybe heart, maybe cardio or OG, etc. I want to do some research. My hospital must have minimum 100 bed strength. And they will come and inspect, then only I can have an ethics committee. Now they revised into 50 bed hospitals can have a clinical trial. And they can have an ethics committee separately, or they can send all the proposals for approval to another ethics committee in another institution. So you need not have a separate ethics committee now. You can get the service of another ethics committee from another hospital which is having ethics committee. So location. So far, I am having a hospital. I don't have any ethics committee of my own. I cannot conduct any clinical trial. Now, I can conduct a clinical trial if any of the hospitals having ethics committee within the distance of 50 kilometers from my hospital. I repeat, if I don't have any independent ethics committee in my hospital, still I can do research. I can apply for clinical trial projects for my hospital. If my hospital is having 50 bed strength, plus if any other hospital is having independent ethics committee within the distance of 50 kilometers. So much of relaxation has been given to the clinical trial to be done in India. Now it is regarding the drugs, new drugs and clinical trial drugs. New drugs and clinical trial drugs. Among one or two drugs also, in combination also we can conduct a clinical trial. So we call pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics. These are the areas where we are trying to have 2 drugs or 3 drugs for a same ailment, same disease. Now this is exclusively for the domain of clinical trial. Now we are coming to next stage. What's the next stage? Principles and rules to be followed in biomedical and health research. It is completely new and it is away from the clinical and new drugs trial. Now this is actually, previous slide please. Previous slide. Yeah. Principles to be followed in biomedical and health research. This is, you can ask, sir, what is that biomedical and health research? Health research is macro level research. For example, now you know epidemic, COVID. Now I want to study about how it affected, what are the district it has affected in Tamil Nadu or any state, and how it is spread. I am studying about the geographic location, population location, location wise, and the gravity of the disease, etc. If I am studying as a macro level, we call health studies. Same way, biomedical studies. Biomedical studies and health studies are different from clinical trial studies. So for biomedical and health studies, that is, gentlemen, that clinical trial rules are new drugs and clinical rules 2019. Here, that is separate. Now we are talking about biomedical and health studies. These guidelines are given by Indian Council of Medical Research. Two different departments. Clinical trial, new drugs are being given, Drugs and Cosmetics Act, which is being given by the Chemicals Ministry, that is different, Drug Inspector General. Here, principles to be followed in biomedical and health studies, guidance were given by Indian Council of Medical Research. It has nothing to do with clinical trial. Now, here also there is an ethics committee. There are so many guidelines for biomedical and health research. It is a separate book which has been published by the ICMR for following, for having all the rules, guidelines. It's got guidelines to be followed for biomedical and health research. Now, this is separated. It is supervised by the ICMR. It has nothing to do with the drugs. And normally, in all the drugs and cosmetics rules, as well as the principles to be followed in biomedical and health research, we are having two wings. One is research committee, another one is ethics committee. Normally, in an institution, we will be having a session with both the people. One side, all the researchers will be there. Other side, there is an ethics committee members. First, a proposal, a project will be reviewed by the researchers, whether the study is necessary, whether the study is useful, whether the study is economical, whether the study is safe, etc. will be studied by the research, and they want research which has already been made in the same field. If already research has been done, they will discourage the study. It should be a new study. So researchers will be going into the project, going into the study, whether it is necessary or not, whether it is a repetition, whether it is useful, whether it is a new study. They will analyze the study. After their analyzation, after they say it's okay, we can pass, then it will be shifted to the ethics committee members. Normally, 2 members will be reviewing the ethics committee side. And ethics committee members will be studying the project or the trial or the health research. Number 1, safety of the participants. Safety. Second, rights of the participants. They are innocent people, whether their rights are being recognized. 3, well-being of the participant. After the study, whether it is a good thing for them or not. So, safety, rights and well-being is very, very important, and that is the duty of the ethics committee constituted under the principles of biomedical and health research. It will be recognized by the ICMR. That ethics committee is recognized by the Director Control, Drugs Controller General of India, Clinical Trial Ethics Committee. This ethics committee is recognized, should be recognized and registered with the ICMR. So, third, we call, next slide please. Now, third category, now it is divided into 3. Stem cell research. Once upon a time, it's only one research. Now, where you are having in their organization, in their hospital, a committee which is called Institutional Committee on Stem Cell Research. Now, gentlemen, here in the stem cell research, there are so many areas. It's a different type actually, because stem cell research, for your benefit, I am explaining about stem cell classification, levels of manipulation. How far it can be stem cell can be manipulated is a condition. You cannot do any research in the stem cell. No, it is a prohibition for that. Third, categorization of research, permissive areas of research. It is listed there. What are the areas you can do stem cell research? B, restrictive areas of research. In stem cell research, there are some restrictions where in that area you cannot do any research. 3, prohibited area of stem cell research. It is prohibited. Punishment is there if you are doing it. Therapeutic use of stem cell research, procurement of biological tissues from other countries, exporting, importing, international collaboration, exchange of tissue, stem cells and stem lines, National Apex Committee for Stem Cell Research. These are the ingredients of new guidelines in the stem cell research. Now you can see the prohibited area, exchange of study materials. What are the only with the area where you are allowed to do it, you can have exchange of study materials between nations. Now the last one is next, sir. Next slide, yeah. Now, another one guideline is there issued by the ICMR. We will discuss later. Now, what is the generality? What's the normal principles we have to follow while we are doing research? Gentlemen, listen to that. Normal guidelines to be followed in all research. The basic principles to be followed. Principles of essentiality. If there's no need, don't do any research. Here, principles of essentiality. If it is absolutely necessary, if you think that there are 3-4 methods to be followed in an OG case, in an ortho case, in any area of operation, etc., and you want to study which procedure is very conducive for the patient, which area is very benevolent to the patient, which area is a shortcut method, quick method, we can discharge the patient quickly. If you want to study that methodology and procedure wise, then go for the study. If you are not justified with the essentiality, don't go for that. There is a waste of time, waste of energy, and wastage for the participant also. So, principles of essentiality. Next, principle of voluntariness. Gentlemen, we have studied from the history that people with all the diseases were compelled to participate in the clinical trials. Syphilis studies, people were compelled, people were influenced that they will have bread and butter, they will have some dollar, they will have some influence, they will have money. So they were called to participate in a clinical trial, which ended in a tragic mood. The principle of voluntariness is a must in every clinical trial and every research. In the consent form, in the information sheet, there is compulsorily a rule we are following. At any moment, you can withdraw from the study. At any moment, you can stop the studies. In no way, it will be if you are stopping from the study, it will not cause any loss to you. Our usual procedure will be followed. Our usual treatment will be given to the patient. Even the patient does not like the study. It has nothing to do with that. It is separate. So that assurance we are giving in every information sheet we are giving to the study participants or clinical trial subjects. So voluntariness is the essence of the study. Or if a person, actually it is not a contract. You can understand. A gives something to B and B reciprocated to A, it's a contract. If a patient comes to the hospital, you are giving treatment and the patient is paying money. But gentlemen, it's not a contract. Here, a project volunteer or project investigator and sponsor are reaping the profit, whereas the participants does not receive anything at all. So principles of voluntariness is an essential ingredient for any research. Next, principle of non-exploitation. When you are conducting a study, in no way there must be exploitation at the cost of the clinical trial participants or clinical trial subjects. So you are the benefit, you are getting benefits, but don't exploit any persons. Don't misdirect a person. Don't have any false promise. Tell them what you are going to do. Tell them what type of risk they are having if they are taking the drug, and what is the remedy for them. Tell them frankly risk factors, advantages, and how it is beneficial, etc. Let them take a decision. No ingredient of any compulsion or exploitation. Next, principle of social responsibility. I am an investigator. I am having a sponsor to finance that project. I am a doctor. I am a researcher. So I want a result. At the same time, I am also socially responsible for the community. So when we are selecting the people from the community, I must ensure that my research should be beneficial to the people. You know, professionals, normally we call professionals, we are having first aim is to serve the society. Attended benefit is income. Same way, when we are doing research, now there must be a social responsibility. There must be a social benefit to the people from where we are getting all the information. So I must feel the social responsibility. Then only I can do the research. Next, principle of privacy and confidentiality. Till recently, there was a project came for my review. There are some projects that involves privacy and confidentiality. For example, there is a study about domestic violence. Now, if you are taking out all the facts from a pregnant woman who has come to your hospital, you are talking about any domestic violence that was given to the lady. She has to give the name, she has to give the date, she has to give all the particulars. Will it affect her career? Will it affect her future? Suppose these papers are leaked to some other people, they can understand. So privacy and confidentiality is the two ingredients for any research. Without the name, without any voluntariness, without any particulars, you have to publish the paper. Not with anything. You should ensure that privacy and confidentiality is maintained by your end. This is very, very important. The moment it is being leaked to other people, then you are in the soap. Huge compensation you have to give. Next. Risk minimization. I have decided to many studies I have come across. The research people, scientists will ask why you are doing such risk, and these are the risks. Why not you change your way of doing research? If you are changing this way, that will be minimize the risk. So they will say when we are doing placebo and the exact drugs, they will suggest many ways and means to reduce the quantum of risk which is exposed to the participants. So principles of risk minimization, minimum risk must be there. You have to find out a methodology where when we are doing research, there must be a minimum risk to the participants or the trial subjects. Next. Principles of professional competence. Professional competence. The meaning is, why I am using the word professional. Actually, the next I wanted to tell you, there's a vast difference between occupation and profession. Listen to me very carefully. There is a vast difference between occupation and profession. All the professions are occupations, but not all the occupations are professionals. In professionals, there are 4 ingredients to be called as a professional. You can come across, he is a medical professional, he is a teaching profession, he is an advocate, he is an attorney, he is an auditor. All professionals we call. Why we are calling certain occupation as profession? 4 ingredients are a must for that. Number 1, any professional is serving to the society. His main aim is to serve the society to his maximum level. And in turn, minimum he will take from the society. In other words, if I am a doctor, my main aim is to serve the society, to serve the patient. That means society, the maximum level. And attendant factor is income. What the patient gives me, I put it in my pocket. But I am not doing any treatment only for money. It has nothing to do with money. And my main object is serving to the society. Attendant factor is income. Second ingredient is all professionals will have a prescribed education, educational qualification and professional experience, and without which you cannot practice the profession. Whereas in occupation, I need not have any qualification or any experience. Tata can start a computer company. Tata can start an automobile. Tata can start an aeroplane company. Tata can do anything at all because he is not a professional. He is having a business attitude or manufacturing concern. But a professional must have a prescribed qualification and a professional knowledge without which his practice became unlawful. 3. Every professional will have a legal sanction to practice. A doctor, he completes MBBS, MD, RMS, but without registration, he cannot practice. There is a legal sanction for practice, without which his practice become illegal. A lawyer, without enrollment, he cannot practice law, even though he takes a PhD in law. Yeah, there must be a legal sanction to practice. Every professional must have a legal sanction. 4th, every professional will have an association for chit-chatting, for a dinner, for a very good lunch. No. If you are having an association periodically, you can discuss many things professionally with your colleagues, your seniors, your professors, and your juniors. You can guide many people. You can interact, update your knowledge, so that with the updating knowledge, community will be beneficial. I do not know anything about that. After the meeting with another doctor, and now I understand that service, that knowledge, I will give to the common man. Oh, this is the method. I have been not following this. My friend is following that type of surgery, which is very beneficial, economical, and quick. I will follow this. So far, I do not know. So because dinner and chit-chatting is okay, but it is not main for chit-chatting and dinner or lunch. Association of the same professionals, so that they can mingle together, they can exchange views, they can exchange the methodology, so that they can improve their professional knowledge in such a way which is helpful to the society. It should go to the society, not for yourself. So these are the professional competence. So once I have to update my knowledge, I became a professional. Next, maximization of benefits. When there are actually there is a main objective for a clinical trial or a research, then what are the other ancillary benefits? 1, 2, 3. There are main aim. There are other ancillary aims. Objective, main objective, sub-objective, etc., etc. So when I am doing a research for a maximum 1 point, I can also subsidiarily for the same expense, for the same economic conditions, I can do some other research which are also maximizing the benefits. So same cost, same time, I can get more information from the participants. That is called principles of maximization of benefits. Next, institutional arrangements. Principles of institutional arrangements. So when an institution is involved in a research as an institution, not as a one professor or a one investigator, the institution must have a total budget for research. I know many teaching hospitals in India, they are spending crores of rupees for doing research in their institution. They are having independent ethics committee, they are having a research committee, and every month they are having ethics committee meeting, and they are approving many projects and studies, which enhance the prestige and the standing of the institution. So principles of institutional arrangement is very much important. Support. They are having fund. We call fluid fund. Fluid fund is the fund which is being given to a chief investigator for doing research from the institutional fund. Sponsoring fund is different. Sponsoring means external fund. So external sponsors are there, and there is a multi-center research. Only one medicine or one drugs, it is the clinical trial is being conducted in 10 or 15 centers covering all over the world. That we call multi-centered research. For that, funds are being flowing from other countries. That's okay. But internal funds are also there in many institutions for enhancing their capabilities. So, in principles of institutional arrangement is one of the principles in research. Next. Principle of transparency and accountability. Principles of transparency and accountability, which was absent in Nuremberg as well as this Epilus research. There's no transparency. There's no truth. Nobody can go and investigate. Now, principles of transparency, it should be free. The ethics committee, I told you, majority of the members are from external sources, not from the institution. Only 40-50% can be from the institution. So most of the people are from external. Why? They will have a transparent and they will having accountability. These are the broad principles to be followed in any research, gentlemen. This keep it in your mind so that you will have an idea what these fellows are doing. Clinical research, biomedical and health research, stem cell research, what are the principles to be followed, ethics committee, research committee, what do you mean by ethics committee, etc. Now you understand. Next. Principle of totality of responsibility. It will be very, very interesting in India and as elsewhere. When there is adverse events happening to a clinical trial patient or a participant, the chief investigator say, I am not responsible. The sponsor will say, I am not responsible. The institution will say, we are not responsible. Now, the principles of totality of responsibility. Now, it is totally all the people are jointly and severally accountable. All the people are severally and they are accountable for the total responsibility if something goes wrong. Now, there is a compensation committee in the central government. There is a compensation committee every institution. So, if there is any adverse events happening to a patient or a participant, immediately it is coming recommendation. There is a formula for calculating compensation. So according to that formula, those participants who are affected, they will get compensation for that. Next. Environmental protection. You can do the research with subject to the condition, environmental protection is also there. Okay, next. Now, in 2020 March, with all these guidelines, ICMR issued a new guidelines for pandemic March 2020. It is exclusively for COVID. Now, the thing is, all the research and drugs, cosmetics, trials, etc., every participants will be met by the researchers. They will go, interview them, talk to them, give the information sheet, explain the information sheet, get consent, etc. Then only they can do research. Person to person. Or the patient will be coming to our hospital for treatment. At the time of treatment, we are having research projects and we are getting consent, information, etc. Now, the ICMR guidance says, if there is no necessity, you can get consent through email, through WhatsApp, you can talk through phone and get all the information. So it relaxed many things during the pandemic. These are the new guidelines issued by the ICMR for this year, maybe 2020. While conducting, there are so many relaxation for that. Even ethics committee meeting, research committee meeting for the last 1 year, physically we were not there. We were conducting all the trial and the studies approved only through Zoom meeting. So it was relaxed by the ICMR. So these are the broad guidelines, gentlemen, under the research. Next. Now, we can go to the next topic, protection especially for the medical professionals. The other day I explained certain things, but certain things you are not able to cope up with that. So I am going to brief that now. Yeah, slide please. Yeah, occupation and profession I have already explained, my gentlemen, in my last talk. So there are many occupations. All the professions are occupations, but not all the occupations are professionals. 4 ingredients are there. Whenever we are discharging our function as professionals, we must keep it in our mind that what we are doing, serving to the people, is not for money. Money is an attendant factor when we are serving the society. So our profession main aim of objective of the professional is serving to the society. Attendant factor is income. Whereas in occupation, main aim of occupation is a profit. Gentlemen, if you are registering a company under Companies Act 1956, now the new Companies Act 2013. If you are registering a company under Companies Act, your main object is profit, so that it can be distributed to your shareholders. But in occupation, if you are a doctor, you are an engineer, here your service cannot be compensated with money. For example, I am traveling to Chennai from Vellore. My car unfortunately met with an accident. One fellow is fatally wounded. He is unconscious stage. Another car followed my car. There is a doctor who has done some first aid in such a way, within the golden hour, his life is saved. So after 15 days, the fellow came to the doctor. Sir, doctor, you helped me. I think I hear that you helped me. People say you saved my life. What's your fees? My dear gentlemen, the services offered by a professional cannot be compensated with money. A timely need, timely help of a doctor to resuscitate a patient cannot be compensated. Same way, I am going to the Minambakam airport. I pay only 4,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees or 6,000 rupees. My body, myself is carefully taken, and I am in the air. I am landing Delhi with 6,000 rupees. How it is possible? The pilot strategically takes the flight in such a way, with full protection. He is taking more than 500 people safely to Delhi. Definitely he is a professional. No ordinary man without the qualification and experience cannot do the job. An engineer building a bridge, a surveyor going to the overseas and going into the water and to take estimate about the ship which has sunk long back. He takes down. So every professional is having a legal sanction to practice, unless otherwise proved, his certificate, his report is valid before a court of law. Unless otherwise proved, whatever the professional says is valid under the law. So professionals and occupation. Occupation main aim is profit, whereas professionals main aim is serving to the society. Next. Indian Penal Code, very, very interesting, gentlemen. In the world, the best book is Indian Penal Code. Lord Macaulay drafted the Indian Penal Code in 1834. 1834, maybe 250 years back. And he stipulated certain things for the doctors to safeguard their profession. Indian Penal Code, section 88. If a doctor performs an operation with proper consent from the patient or implied on good faith to save his life, will not be prosecuted by state, even that patient dies. He is a doctor, he performs, patient dies, no prosecution, because under section 88, there is a full protection for the doctor to touch a patient, cut his body and do the operation with good faith. Suppose if the provision is not there in the code, no doctor shall touch a patient. the section 88 of Indian Penal Code, protection to the doctors. Second, section 89. When a doctor is treating a patient who is less than 12 years, he can undertake his professional work with the consent of his guardian, which is legal, but the intention should be for the benefit of the minor. He can do any operation for a minor. Section 90 Indian Penal Code. This section explains about the qualities of proper consent and also distinguishes consent which is not valid under the law. Consent not necessary. Gentlemen, without consent also you can do if there is a principles of medical necessity. I repeat, principles of medical necessity. Now, a doctor can start treating a patient even if the consent is not obtained from anybody on the principles of medical necessity, like motor accident, natural calamities, floods, havoc. This is called principles of medical necessity to save persons of great need and in a situation where consent cannot be obtained. Our Supreme Court says if there is a casualty, motor accident case, don't wait for any procedure. Save the patient, resuscitate him, then let the procedure wait for that. So in many Supreme Court cases, Supreme Court gave a standing instruction to resuscitate the patient first. Don't delay the matter because life cannot be, resurrection is not possible in this world. So you have to save the life immediately. So there are so many judgments available to guarantee a doctor, even if there's no consent. But in ordinary sense, ordinary walk of life, consent is a must. Now, there are many case law, gentlemen. Very important case law, you can keep it in your mind. The Indian Medical Association versus VP Shanda. The Indian Medical Association versus VP Shanda. You can see the client, Indian Medical Association of Doctors versus VP Shanda. In this case, it's a very, very historical case. Here, in that time, some High Court are the opinion that the medical treatment can come under the purview of Consumer Court. Some High Court judgments say, no, it cannot, it can go to the Civil Court. So, there is a difference of opinion among the High Court, and the Supreme Court gave this verdict saying that the moment the patient gives money, these automatically the services offered by the professionals are coming under the purview of Consumer Protection Act. In that, gentlemen, they gave recognition to the Bolam test. I have already covered Bolam test is very important, but even the cautious approach of repetition, I want to repeat again, this court judgment gave recognition to the Bolam test, and once the doctor follows the Bolam test, no court can give compensation against the doctor or the hospital. So I repeat the Bolam test once again so that you can understand again and again, because it's the crux of all our discussion. Number one, before taking a patient for treatment, convince yourself whether you are competent or not. I may be MBBS doctor, I may MD, I may MS, but I should convince myself whether I can take the patient or not. I must convince about my competence. It is called competency test. I must be professionally qualified. I must be professionally experienced. I must have adequate skill to do the job. If I am convinced in that, the court says you can start giving treatment. The moment you are having a doubt, don't touch the patient. This is first test. Second test, Bolam test 2. It's called due care test. Again, I repeat because I have already covered this, but it is very, very important. The whole series of lecture, this is very important. You can forget anything, but don't forget this Bolam test. First test, competency test. Second test, due care test. It has 3 points. Number one, once you are taking a patient, a systematic procedures which are being given in the textbook and medical journal, followed by your peer group, should be started without giving any waste of time. A is the patient who is at your door. You have decided to take him for a treatment. The moment you are admitting him, you have to start the procedure as per your peer group in another hospital will be doing if the patient has gone there. It's called standard care. Standard care is the care which your patient might have got from another hospital of the same status if he was admitted there. So, from the textbook, from the medical journal, there are so many articles to be, there are so many procedures to be followed in a particular disability. You have to start the procedure systematically. Second, whatever the procedure you are followed, it should be notified in the medical records. First, you have to start the procedures according to the textbook and journal by your peer group, what they are doing. Systematic procedure to be followed without giving any gap. Second, whatever the procedure you are following, it should be recorded in the medical records. Plus, whatever the contributing negligence committed by the patient should be recorded. What do you mean by contributing negligence? You are giving 5 medicines, the fellow takes only 3 medicines. The other 2 medicines he says, according to his son in United States, it is not good. So he has not taken. It should be recorded in the medical record. You are telling, when you are taking this medicine, don't take alcohol. The fellow comes with a full drinking pattern. You, after a completion of the ortho operation, you are telling him, please show it after 1 week for review. He never turned up. He indulged in many activities. After 15 days, he is coming with a bulging leg. It should be recorded in the medical records. Third point, proper informed consent should be obtained from the patient. So, second test, 3 points. 1, systematic procedure, systematic recording, including recording of contributing negligence. 3, proper consent form. Then, Bolam test, third point. You have to choose one of the procedure which is being followed by your peer group in that location in the relevant time. In that location in the relevant time. What is practiced in South Africa should not be followed in Chennai or Delhi. And what was a good procedure followed in 2010, 2018 cannot be followed in 2020. It's all Bolam test. So this was validated, and once an hospital and a doctor is following that, no court can give any compensation, because for all the doctor has given proper treatment, but the patient died, the patient got problem, we are not followed, we are not bothered, and no court can give. If anything goes wrong, doctor is not responsible, provided he follows these 3 tests. Next slide, please. Jacob Matthew versus State of Punjab. Listen to me, it's a very, 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 very historical case. Now, Jacob Matthew and Alan Matthew, they were junior doctors working in CMC Ludhiana. There is another Christian Medical College in Ludhiana. This is a 1996 case. These people were junior doctors. At that time, according to the complaint I am talking, according to the complainant, there is one Lal. He is an old man. He is affected by cancer in the terminal stage. And he was taken to the hospital, and the doctors opined, this is a very terminal stage. Here there is no treatment is possible for this man. Now this love and affection and only prarthana is better, not the treatment. But the sons, they are very influential family. They compelled the doctor to give treatment to this old man of 75 years with cancer. That is all terminal cancer. Now, according to the complaint, they brought a oxygen cylinder. They tried to connect it, and they found there is no oxygen. And after that, one of the son brought another cylinder from the hospital and tried to connect it. They were not able to connect it. According to the complaint, a doctor came, senior doctor, and they are saying, you are killing the patient. And after 1 or 2 days, the patient died. Now, there is a criminal complaint given by the sons of Lal that because their negligence was very recklessness, not only criminal negligence, it's a recklessness. They committed criminal negligence, and a complaint was filed before the police, and the magistrate court took cognizance of the offence. Two doctors went for a bail. Bail was rejected, and they went to the sessions court. That also anticipated bail was rejected. Went to the high court. High court gave a direction to meet the trial and come as an innocent person. That was an observation given by the high court of Punjab and Haryana. The poor doctors went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court gave a detailed judgment. In this judgment, to cut the story short, the Supreme Court, for the first time in the Indian legal history, because in Indian Constitution, there is two people were excluded from the purview of Indian Penal Code. One, President of India, and governor, any state governor. They are immune from prosecution as long as they are in the position. All other citizens are treated as equivalent. Prime Minister of India, Chief Minister of India, ministers, all equal. There's no safeguard even in the Indian Penal Code. You know, sitting chief ministers were convicted. You know the history. Now, in this judgment, the Supreme Court did not want to distinguish doctors from other citizens, but they gave a safeguard, giving all the direction to the police. You can file an FIR if there is a criminal complaint against any doctor, but you cannot file a charge sheet before a magistrate court for prosecuting the doctor unless and until another doctor of the same branch of medicine gives an opinion that there is a criminal negligence on the part of the doctor. If the doctor is not giving such an opinion, if your charge sheet is not having such an opinion, no magistrate will take cognizance. It is not a prohibition for arrest, it is a restriction on arrest of the doctor. It is meant only, it is applicable only for medical treatment, not for fraudulent activities. A few doctors were punished for fraudulent activities, that is different story. I am not, please don't include that. In one or two cases where some superior quality stent were charged, but fixed with inferior stent, they were punished. That is different. But while giving treatment to a patient, a doctor was not punished till this date, because there is a restriction for arrest for the doctors from this judgment. So this is a very, very important judgment. You can get a copy and go through the judgment in detail. Next. A.Mahalingam. Martin D'Souza versus Mohammed Ishfaq. This is also very important judgment from the Supreme Court, which gave a certificate to the doctors and other people not to hasten prosecution of doctors. Next. Next, Maha. Kishan Rao, Legal Super Specialty Hospital. Some safeguards were given to the doctors. Next. Next slide. Okay, this is very important. I draw your attention. Medicare service persons and Medicare service institutions, Protection from Violence and Damage to Property Act 2018. There is another act 2010 by the Parliament. Gentlemen, this is a special act. Perhaps you may not be knowing that. If you want, we will send a copy to you. This is a special act focused only for medical institutions, not only doctors, medical professionals, And it's a special law where the accused can be convicted, imprisoned. At the same time, compensation can be obtained from those people who ransacked a hospital. Many police personnel, many doctors do not know about the existing of this law. Gentlemen, more than 22 states enacted a special law like this. Tamil Nadu state, Andhra Pradesh state, Karnataka state were the pioneers to enact a special law to protect the service persons and Medicare service institution also. Suppose a gang comes in the 3 hours of a day, early morning 2 o'clock, they involved in a problem with the doctor. Doctor will be 1 or 2 people were there in the official side. They cause a fighting, they ransack the hospital, they beat the doctors and other people, they run away. They can be booked under not Indian Penal Code, they can be booked under this law. Here speciality is, in the Indian Penal Code only we can punish the accused. You will not get any compensation. In this case, both you can punish the convicts, accused, as well as you can claim compensation from those people who were involved in these activities. So nearly 22 states have enacted this law, and you must also necessarily must have a copy, especially the administration, the people who are administering a hospital must have a copy of this act so that you can show to the police personnel if there is a ruckus in the interview area, in the patient area. If there is a fighting between the patient and the doctors, sometimes the doctors are attacked, the medical professionals are misused, manhandled, abused. All these can be prosecuted with this new law. It is in force in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala. 22 states have enacted this law. But unfortunately, many of the institutions, they don't report about this happening. I don't know what for. There is apathy on the side of the hospital administration that they are not ready for prosecuting those who are involved in the rioting situations in the hospital. So these are the protection, special protection given to the doctors. And next slide, please. Yeah, we can go. We are having a very convenient time. You can put some questions so that I can answer. You can spend more than 15 minutes for that, gentlemen.
I request the members, if any questions,
you can send the emails. Somebody asked that how to register an ethics committee, how to have registration for a clinical trial. To conduct a clinical trial, you must have an hospital. Now the minimum strength is 50 beds only. And if you are having a specialty, you can apply. There are some sponsors available. They will come to your hospital. You must have a specialty, then only you can conduct the clinical trial. And you must have an ethics committee. If you don't have any ethics committee, you can arrange to have a link with the ethics committee of another hospital. Suppose I am having an hospital with more than 50 beds and I don't have independent ethics committee, I need not worry about that. Within the 50 kilometers radius, I can find another hospital with the ethics committee. All my projects and proposals can be approved by that ethics committee and research committee. I will be getting funds for it. And there are some people, companies available for offering funds for the clinical trial. If you are interested, we can link it. Next question. You can type your question if you want.
Any other questions from the participants?
Are permission required for retrospective studies? Yes. For all studies, that's why I categorize into 3. One is clinical trial, exclusively for drugs. Second, medical research and health research. We are having prospective as well as retrospective. For retrospective studies also, it has to undergo under the permission of ethics committee and research committee. Very good question. Very good question. In some retrospective studies, we don't want any consent form or information sheet because it can be waived. If it's retrospective studies, it is anonymous, then we can waive the consent as well as the information sheet. Question please. It appeared and disappeared. Again, please repeat that question. Yeah. Sir, please send a copy of the Act of Protection from Violence and Damage to Property. I will send it. Sir, my question was about registering and I will. Very good question. Sir, if a patient is coming and threatening that he will file a criminal complaint, don't worry. Don't worry. Let him go anywhere. If you go to the police station, let him give a complaint. Number one. Number two, the moment he goes there, he can make a complaint. Police people will come. Don't be afraid of that. You give a summary of the treatment for the patient. Sincerely, properly. Go and meet the personnel and tell them. Go and meet the higher authorities and brief them so that they will give instruction to the subordinate police. Even you can meet the superintendent of police of the head of the district. Appraise him that what happened. Then he actually want to catch a mouse out of a mountain. He wants some compensation. That is what this fellow is doing. You give them a report, medical report, what procedure you have taken as per the law, as per the textbook. Then give a report to the superintendent of police, district superintendent of police and inspector. Brief them and stop that action. I have done for so many hospitals. In the same way, if he is threatening, let him. You can tell them. You can go to consumer case. You can go to anywhere. We are ready to defend. Don't worry about that. If he is involved in criminal activities, you threaten them that you are going to the police. That's studied. Before reading, it disappears. Please repeat the question.
Sir?
Yeah.
If we are, let's say, a small hospital, like ours is a daycare center, does that mean that I cannot do any retrospective clinical studies of my own patients according to the records which I already have with me?
Yes, you can do it through another ethics committee of another hospital.
Okay.
Because why I am telling is it should be published. Any research should be published. Then only it will be useful for others. Any research, there must be a system in which you have to do the research. So ethics committee and research committee will guide you how to do a research. And if that research is done, the research result will be published in a magazine or a journal. Then only it is useful. You are bringing this to the public domain. If you are not bringing to the public domain, there is no use. Sister, are you able to understand me?
Yes, I understand. If I'm doing it, let's say, to improve my own practices in my own hospital, then still I need to get permission from somebody.
Yeah. No, if it is one, that also, there is an authenticity. I call authenticity. If it is published, if it is approved by an ethics committee, it becomes authenticity. Otherwise, you are doing your own, and there will not be any valuation for that. Validation. You know validation.
Yes, sir. There is some other questions in the chat box. Just click the chat box and see the answer, sir.
Any idea when new labor codes will be implemented? So far, there is no idea. Quickly, very good. This is good. Any idea? Labor code, it is still pending. Originally, it was slated last year, but still it's not implemented. Sir, please send a copy of the Act Protect Violence and okay, I will send it. Sir, my question was about registering an experimental trial with CTRI. Is it mandated by law? Yes, it is mandated by law. If a patient comes threatening filing of criminal case against you, what is the first step to take? There are many hospitals in North India, it happens, and many threatening thing, they went to the police station. What I asked them, two things. Two groups will be there. One team will prepare a proper medical report about the patient and convince the police officials. Another one, they will also go to the revenue officer, collectorates, and brief them about that, so that they will give instruction to the police station not to register any case against that. But you have to act swiftly. My suggestion has worked out wonderfully for North India. So before these people are going to the police station and they are influencing the police, you have to do it. Next, if we are a small hospital, less than 50 beds, then we cannot do retrospective clinical studies of your own patient. You can do that, but if you are having a result, it should be published, then only it is having validation. Otherwise, other researchers will not recognize that validation. So, better I would advise, even if it is less than 50 beds, you can do research with the permission of the ethics committee, which is functioning near your place. In any other hospital, you can have a link. The study related hospital administration and operational issues need sanction from ethical committee. Studies related to hospital, no, not necessary. Not necessary. This is actually, it comes under management. If the patient goes to the media, what we should do? Let them go to the media. We have to brief the media properly with facts and figures. Don't get panicky. Nothing will go wrong. Let the heaven will not fall down. We will explain our position. If you want, I will give an instance. A police officer came to the hospital. He had bilateral hernia. Listen to me very carefully. Bilateral hernia. Now, when he was admitted, doctors opined that right hand side should be operated now, and after 3 months, left hand side can be operated. So all the doctors' opined and notes are written about the right side. When the patient was admitted in the hospital, colloquially he was talking to the nurses, and the nurses got the idea he is having hernia in the left hand side. Listen to me very carefully. So all the nursing notes started from the hernia in the left hand side, pain, etc., etc. When the first nurse wrote left, all the nurses followed left hand side, left hand side, left hand side. Doctor's notes are in the opposite right hand side. The patient was taken to the operation room. Right hand side hernia was operated. He was returned back to the ward. Nurses exclaimed, "Oh, wrong operation. Instead of operating in the left hand side, doctor operated in the right hand side." It became a spread. It spread to all the people, relatives, etc. You know the policeman. Immediately, Superintendent Police, DAG, press, all came. And it was flashed. And we had I was invited, we had a discussion. I said, doctors were of the opinion that both the sides of the hernia to be operated. First, they were done in the right, and after 3 months, they will do the right. Nothing went wrong. No negligence. When nurses are recording the facts under an impression that what the patient are telling to them. Doctors are the correct persons who are touching the patient, examining the patient, and taking diagnosis according to that, and they are treating the patient. They are intervening the patient. So what doctors have done is correct, and nothing went wrong. No negligence, no compensation to be paid. And after 3 months, same police officer came. We have done in the right hand side. Sorry, left hand side. Now both ends. He went to the consumer court. In the consumer court, we explained about that. Please understand, unless there is a negligence on the part of the doctors and hospital, no compensation. In this case, first the doctors operated the right, second they operated the left. Nothing went wrong, no negligence. Why should we worry? Don't get worried, don't get panicky. If even something goes wrong, be steady. You consult a competent persons. Get the advice. Don't worry about that. We can safeguard your interest. Any questions? At any time, at any emergency, you can consult me. There are so many incidents, too many incidents. Recently, an hospital was ransacked in North India. They are very influential people. Please understand, they are very, very influential people. They are very near to the hospital. The hospital is in existence for more than 150 years. And I advise them, go to the police station, give a complaint. Another complaint against these people, mentioning his name. And again, a team of doctors has to meet the superintendent of police and tell them, you will not believe, within 1 hour, police tried to arrest the other people. And they came, they apologized, they gave compensation to the hospital, and the matter was settled. They ransacked the hospital, they actually abused one nurse at that time. They touched the patient, they tried to threaten them. But within 1 hour, it has happened in North India, Uttarakhand. If that happens there, why not you? You have to rise up to the occasion, get proper advice. We can turn the table against the patient when you are doing the job properly. Even then, even if they want to get compensation, it should be as per the procedure. They cannot take law and order in their own hands. There are systems in place, and we will inform them. Even if the police is against you, you just tell them, sir, let them go to any court of law. We are ready to defend our hospital and doctor. We are not afraid of that because we are not committed anything at all. If you are going for a compromise, then the thing is, presumption is you have committed something wrong. If suppose I tell you, take it from me, even if there is any negligence, and that negligence has not caused any injury to the patient, I repeat, even if there is any slight negligence, the negligence has not caused any injury to the patient. Injury means discomfort, their right infringed, it has not caused, no compensation can be awarded. Even if there is a negligence, there are many court cases. Because it happens in a professional work. It happens, negligence happens. So, if it has not created any injury of right or injury of person, in no way, no compensation can be paid as per law. Don't afraid.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for all your weekend session for this certificate course in healthcare law. I would like to request one of our TwinTech director, Mr. Ratinam, sir, to give a vote of thanks for the faculty and the participants, and we will close the session today.
A.Mahalingam, can I have a request? If time permits, 1 or 2 people can talk about the whole series of talk.
Yes,
if
sir.
Time permits.
Yes, sir. Please. So
let them have their own remarks.
Yes, sir.
I am ready to receive remarks.
Yes, sir. Can anyone give your voice feedback about the course for a few minutes?
Hello, sir. I am Dr. Jay Kumar from Namakkal. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Actually, I didn't know that this is a certificate course, sir. So, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I joined in the middle of the course. So, today only I came to know this is a certificate course. So, this was a fantastic session, sir. It was a good learning about this. And then, actually, I didn't attend only the first session, I think. So, I request Dr. Mahalingam, sir, to share the video first session. I'll pay for that. Then, if possible, you have given me only the participation certificate. So, if possible, you let me get the course certificate, sir. I'll just go through it. Do you have any question session, sir? Hello, sir.
Yes,
So after you give a test or something like that, multiple choice question, something like that.
Yes, sir. There is an evaluation. Okay, the MCQ form of questions will be shared for all the participants. It will take only 15 to 20 minutes. Just you can fill and just click to us. It will come to us.
just as a participation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Actually, this is my OP timing, so I just listen only bits and pieces of this thing. But my friend Dr. Mahalingam has shared some videos, all the 3 sessions. That's also I couldn't go through because the doctor's on strike right now. Okay, I'll just go through it, sir. It's a very nice session, very useful. Thank you, sir,
Thank
for
you, sir.
having.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much. Any
Thank you,
other?
thank you, thank you.
Any one more person?
Thank you, Mahalingam.
Volunteer. Okay, Ratan sir, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mahalingam. Hope the participants will send the feedback by mail or WhatsApp messages. On behalf of TwinTech Academy, it's my privilege to thank Professor Samuel Abraham sir for handling the 5 weekend sessions. Sir, the participants are so fortunate to listen to your excellent session. We thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank
It's
you.
also my pleasure to thank all the participants for extending your fullest support and making this program a big success. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And the WhatsApp group will continue to function. The WhatsApp group will continue to function. So please watch for notification from Mr. Mahalingam. Thanks all. Thanks all.
Thank you, sir. All these sessions have been very informative. It is because of our ignorance of the laws and how they can help us that we fall prey to difficult situations. And this whole session has been very helpful for us in many ways. Thank you.
Sister, from where? Which area you are talking? From which hospital?
I'm from Aligarh, sir.
Oh, Aligarh. Oh,
yes.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Ravi Shankar Ramani is a very ardent listener to my lecture. He will appear in the screen always. I can read his face and all reactions also. I'm so fortunate to have him. Same way, Dr. Prakash, also very keen observer. I have seen him in person, in the monitor. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. We will send the evaluation link by tomorrow morning. Take 1 day time and just you can return to us tomorrow evening before 5 p.m. It is very, very easy. And we will see some other courses very soon. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, participants. I'm so happy. I'm so fortunate to have all of you for the last 5 years.
Thanks all.
Thank you, sir.